Joe Reilly, President of National Drug Screening. Welcome back to our video blog series. I have with me one of our drug testing specialists, Brenda Lawrence. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Joe.
So today, Brenda's got some questions that people ask when they call us. And she wanted to ask me some of those questions to get some insight as to how I would respond. So we get calls from both individuals and companies. So let's start with the individuals. What are a couple of the questions that when individuals call, they might be asking us?
Okay, I had an individual call because he wanted to get his captain's license renewed.
Okay.
He needed to be in a random consortium, in a random program.
Okay.
And basically he lived in a remote place. He still works, but not on his own boat. And he's out on the water all the time. And he was wondering how he would be contacted, how we would get him the random, to notify him that he should go for a random.
Okay, great question. So boat captains that work for hire get paid to operate their boat or work for somebody as a captain. They're required to have a drug and alcohol testing program, and they're required to be in a random testing consortium. Now, when they get their captain's license, they need a drug test to get the license. They also need a drug test every other year when they renew their license, okay? Now, sometimes they lose their license because they had a positive and they got to work their way back.
Right.
So it sounds like that may have happened with this guy.
Yes.
Okay, so now he needs some drug testing to help him get his license back.
Right.
Okay. Now, we can help him with that. Okay, we can set up drug testing anywhere in the United States, both, local cities and even in remote areas. Okay. In remote areas, you may have to drive a little bit longer,
exactly,
but we can handle that. Now, he's got some requirements that are his responsibility to get these tests done, okay? And they have to be, this is a follow-up testing program, they have to be surprise and they have to be unannounced,
right?
Okay, so we're going to put them in our computer and we're going to get notified the day that we need to test them, and we're going to call him that day, or we're going to call him the night before, and he's got to go get tested. Okay. Now, he's got to figure out how to get that done. That's his job, not yours. Okay. So, maybe he doesn't go to work that day because he needs to get his test done. Okay. Or maybe he comes back early from being out on the boat. But he's got to get that testing done. If the Coast Guard said, you need 12 follow-up tests to get your license back, he's got to get those done. Okay. So it's a great question, and we help those kind of people all the time.
Right, okay.
Okay?
All right.
So what are other questions that an individual just calling might ask?
An individual calling also asks is, where do I go for a drug test? How do I get this completed? Okay,
another good question. So at National Drug Screening, we can get testing set up anywhere in the country, as you know. And we have a great, robust software program that we pop in a zip code.
Okay.
And it tells us where the closest place is to that zip code.
Okay.
Okay. So you can be on the phone with that person. Hey, I got a Quest location for you 2 miles away. Will that work?
Right.
What will they say?
They say yes.
It works.
Yes.
So again, in most areas of the country, we have a Quest facility or a LabCorp facility, or we have what we call third-party facilities. And in remote areas, we'll find a place one way or the other. Now, people that live in the middle of Montana, they may have to drive a little bit further to get their drug test than people that live in New York City or Orlando, Florida.
Exactly.
But it's a great question, and we help people all the time getting a drug test anywhere in this country.
Joe, I also had a client, a potential client call me and requesting post-accident after-hours testing.
Okay.
Of course, I asked the questions of approximately how many they do a year and all of this, trying to get some, information, history on what happened. But and I want to make sure that we can provide that service for them if we can, and how to go about it. Okay,
good question. So post-accident testing, and we might combine this with reasonable suspicion testing.
Right, exactly.
Could happen during business hours, which, we can get drug tests done pretty readily during business hours, but it could also happen after hours.
Exactly.
Okay. Difficult.
That's the one
Okay.
they're wanting. Yeah, it's a
Difficult. So we have a service that answers the phone 24/7,
Okay.
and we'll take a call for a post-accident test and attempt to dispatch a collector, a mobile collector, to get that collection done to accomplish that after-hours post-accident or reasonable suspicion drug test. Is that guaranteed? No.
Okay.
Okay. It's like calling a plumber at 2 a.m. Is it
Right.
guaranteed you're going to get one?
No.
No. It's the same concept. Nobody's sitting around just waiting to go do a drug test at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Exactly.
Okay. But we have a service that has hundreds of collectors around the country. They can try and dispatch a collector.
Okay.
But
Okay.
here's a better solution that I like.
Okay.
Okay. For post-accident and reasonable suspicion testing, both during work hours and after hours, okay? Oral fluid testing is an easy collection that an employer can do right at their workplace or right on the side of the road after an accident. Now, this is for non-DOT because currently oral fluid testing is not allowed for DOT.
Okay.
But for non-DOT, we can provide them an oral fluid testing kit. It's a sponge on a stick. They put it in their mouth. They seal it up. They send it to the lab, and they get a test. Okay. So the supervisor or the safety manager or the HR manager can easily administer this oral fluid lab-based drug test 24/7, anywhere, in an office, side of the road, McDonald's,
Okay.
doesn't matter where. Okay? They send it off to the lab. They get a result. And that test can include alcohol testing also.
Okay.
Okay. So it's a great solution. A lot of people don't think about it, but we have a program and a package that we can set up any employer for that program.
If there are clients that are interested in knowing whether that person was under the influence of alcohol at that moment,
Right.
in after hours.
Sure,
Is
sure.
there a solution to that or no?
Well, there is. Okay. So there's a couple of different solutions to determine if someone is impaired by alcohol at that moment. Okay. One is you have a breathalyzer. Now, most employers don't have a breathalyzer, but some do, as a matter of fact. Okay. Secondly, we can do this lab-based oral fluid test. We won't get the result back for a day or two, but it will tell us if the person was impaired at that point in time.
Okay.
But thirdly, they can use a saliva-based alcohol screen.
Okay.
Okay. I would do it in addition to the lab-based oral fluid test.
Okay.
Do the saliva-based screen. That's going to tell them if they're above 0.04
Right. Okay.
at the moment.
Okay.
Okay. And this way they can at least, make sure the person gets home safely, make sure they don't drive, make sure they don't, have an accident and kill somebody.
Okay.
So that would be the solution there.
Okay, that's great. That's a good one because I do have to respond to someone. The other thing is when if it comes up positive on non-DOT, do they have to do a breath alcohol test on a saliva positive?
Well, they should do a confirmation test when they do a saliva alcohol screen, but it may not be possible.
Okay,
if it's
right,
after
exactly.
hours. That's why you also do the lab-based oral fluid test, because that will go through confirmation.
Very good.
So that's the whole key there. So what I'm highly recommending this year is folks do oral fluid testing for post-accident reasonable suspicion.
Okay.
So we got time for one more question. You mentioned something about people asking about medications.
Yes. The individual's asking, well, I'm on this medication. Should I take my prescription to the collection site with me?
Okay. Good question, because I remember way back when, Brenda, you and I worked together at Florida Drug Screening in Palm Bay, Florida, and we had a collection site, and people would come in with their whole bag full of pills. Okay? So the answer to that question is absolutely no. Do not bring your prescription bottles in for the collection. Any drug test that is positive at the lab for any drug that we're testing for, okay, and it could be codeine, it could be hydrocodone, it could be whatever it might be, those results go to a medical review officer, an MRO, who is a licensed physician that reviews those results. And it will kind of go like this, Brenda. Say, Brenda, this is Dr. Joe. I've got your drug screen result for your pre-employment test for ABC Company. I'm going to discuss your result with you.
Okay.
Okay. You're positive for opiates, specifically codeine. I'm going to call the pharmacy, find out if you're taking codeine legally.
Okay.
And we're going to change that result to a negative before it gets to your employer.
Okay. All right.
If you don't have a prescription for codeine, you're going to be positive for codeine.
Okay.
So when the MRO calls the individual, that's the only time they discuss their prescriptions.
Okay.
They should not discuss those prescriptions with their employer.
Okay. Very good.
Only with the medical review officer.
Oh, okay.
So those are some great questions. Appreciate the time that we took this morning to answer those. If you have more questions, go to our website, nationaldrugscreening.com. You can go to the little magnifying glass, which has a search window, and you could find answers to anything about drug testing at nationaldrugscreening.com.